That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Fairly learned here.
Welcome to MOTN Reviews, that is Masters of the Nerdiverse Reviews, where we look at some of the Nerdiverse's brightest cinematic supernovas and some that are not so brightly lit. You can always find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and recently Google Play. So if you're on Google Play and you are hearing our podcast for the first time, welcome. Bienvenidos. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. And with me, as always at this point, which is awesome, is Beer Business Brew's own Darren.
Oh, thank you very much for having me again. Hey, that's a fantastic job. You're on Google Play, man. I use Google Play. That's only my premier.
Really?
Yeah, that's a premier marketplace for apps. So
awesome.
Wait,
yeah.
So are you on Play Music?
I'm on Play. There's a special.
Are on Play Music?
There's like a Play podcast kind of thing that they have, and I had to be approved to be on there. You have to have a certain amount of listeners and a certain amount of traffic. So lets me know that the show's growing. Yeah. To get Google's okay. Yeah. And it's all through the Masters of the Nerdiverse gmail.com account. So it's cool. So now we just have to get the holy final god Spotify to notice us, and we'll be good to go. It's like Spotify and La Magra both chill out.
That's a good tie-in. I like that.
Yeah, blood for the Google god. Speaking of blood gods, we're talking about one of the more quintessential movies of the 90s. And I would like to go over the director, Stephen Norrington. And with no further wait, the movie that we're reviewing this week is 1998's Blade. Oh, man. Do you remember where you were when this movie came out?
I remember exactly where I was. I was in the movie theater.
Me too. I saw this when it came out, dude.
Yeah. This movie... Okay, so to give you a little bit of a preface, we were supposed to review this movie actually during the time Black Panther weekend was still going on.
Yes, for Black History Month.
And also for Black History Month, because people were saying, how come T'Challa and, God, I can't think of it.
Killmonger?
No, not Killmonger. Damn it, Black Panther's name?
Chadwick Boseman.
Chadwick Boseman. Why was he getting all this fanfare and attention when the first black superhero we had was Blade? And it's like, no one forgot about Blade.
No one's forgot about Blade, man.
Nobody's forgot about that movie. Or Wesley Snipes.
No, I think it just feels that way.
Actually, we did forget about Wesley Snipes. We just didn't forget about Blade, though.
No, we super forgot about Wesley because he decided to instant transmission himself for movies. But Blade, for us cats who were around back then, has always been in our hearts, right? Of course. It was the first good Marvel movie ever made. Yep. And Wesley's, funny enough, on Twitter, he kind of says he is the grandfather of the MCU, which is a bit hyperbole, but it's kind of not. In a weird way.
No, that's exaggeration. He wasn't Blade.
He wasn't Blade. Yeah. Please separate the two. Yeah. We're going to talk about Wesley like a dog throughout this. Yeah. God bless him. But this movie came around during kind of a vampire renaissance in the 90s. And I was just kind of looking up different vampire movies that came out from 90 to like 99.
Yeah, I think Diary of a Vampire.
Dusk Till Dawn.
Dusk Till Dawn, yeah.
Interview with a Vampire came out in the 90s.
Interview with a Vampire, not Diary. Yeah, exactly.
Innocent Blood. You remember Innocent Blood? It's one of my favorite vampire movies. Yeah. And it was a place where, how do we make this thing fresh? Mm-hmm. And there was going the romance route with the Interview. It was going the mobster route with Innocent Blood. Right. It's going the action grindhouse route with Dusk Till Dawn. Mm-hmm. And here we are at the superhero route, Blade. Right. And it was a big deal. I remember being a kid and going to go see this because it was R-rated. Yeah. And I wasn't supposed to go see it, but my dad snuck me out and then tell my mom, I love you. But we went to go see that, and it changed me forever. Like, it didn't need to be R-rated, honestly. There there was cussing in it, but was it heavy cussing?
No,
Was it any nudity?
It needed to be already because it was pretty damn violent for the time.
You know what? True.
Yeah.
True, because humans were getting jacked up too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
The familiar
Getting all sliced up and just bled dry and
bled dry and
big old masses of fat vampires getting
farting and getting exploded.
Yeah.
Oh man, this movie, the first movie for Sanaa Lathan, which she had, of Love and Basketball fame.
Right.
I forgot about Stephen Dorff, who plays the villain Deacon Frost, because I only knew him from that horror movie, The Gate, when he was a kid. And Deacon Frost is still one of my favorite villains of all time because he's so damn cool.
Right.
He has kind of like, speaking of vampires, Lost Boys, he has a kind of like a leader of the vampire group, the Kiefer Sutherland vibe to him, where he's just so cool and effortless. But at the same time, he's never threatening. You know what I mean?
When I was a kid, actually, when I saw this movie,
Yeah.
I saw him more as just a rogue element, more like this guy is who I should actually be afraid of.
Yeah.
Not these other vampires who seem to be, just resting in their asses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this movie brought into a weird kind of vampire democracy.
Yeah.
Or kind of like, I wouldn't say democracy, it was more like a vampire.
Like a hierarchy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Of those who were turned versus those who were born into vampires. They never really explained that. Like, how does that work? Because apparently when you turn vampire, all of your bodily functions outside of the processing of blood is stopped.
Right.
So vampires can't grow new hair.
Right.
They can't procreate. So what's the difference? Like,
which I don't want to jump ahead, but which is also weird in Blade 2.
Yeah.
Because they broke both of those rules.
They broke both of those rules and then had genetically enhanced
Reapers.
And I would just do a whole show on Blade 2 because that is a funky movie. Guillermo del Toro.
There's way too much shit going on.
There's a lot going on in that movie.
I couldn't figure it out for a while until I had to watch it like twice.
Same here.
Yeah.
And I remember, and Wesley Snipes has always been in my life in a weird way because one of my dad's favorite movies was New Jack City. And I was definitely afraid of Wesley Snipes. Nino Brown was frightening to me as a kid because he was super crazy. He was like worse than Scarface.
Right.
He was about that money. And then he becomes this superhero and is immediate like Blade is the coolest thing on earth. There's nothing cooler than Blade. And it made pretty good money, if I remember. But you want to go ahead and get into the nitty gritty of this film and do kind of like a blow by blow?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Because
Totally
this is one, if you haven't seen Blade yet and you're into the MCU, it doesn't really connect to anything, but it's good to see where this stuff came from. You know what I mean? And this is a movie like with X-Men and the original Spider-Man where you can kind of see the blueprints of what they had in mind.
Yeah, this is a stepping stone for it.
Yeah.
Quite literally the stepping stone for it. And one other thing about it, too, is that this movie was... this is well before the MCU. Well before. Well, no other director who directed any sort of Marvel movie even thought of... not that it's original, but thought of doing this.
Yeah, it was... No one hasn't... The last movie that had taken superhero films this seriously was 1989 Batman.
Right. Yeah.
And
I was going to say
it's funny.
I was going to say Punisher, but
Punisher was pretty dark too. It just was too close to the source material.
A
lot of people tell me to go back and revisit the Punisher because they say it's good. The Dolph Lundgren Punisher.
Yeah, it's still campy though.
It's still campy as shit. But this wasn't campy at all.
No.
Like not kind of like even 1989 Batman was Tim Burton campy. You know what I mean? Because Tim Burton can't help but be kind of campy. This was like I'm watching The Wire, but vampires. You know what I mean?
This was like literally watching a dramatic version of a comic book character
for the first time.
For the first time, something super gritty, super dark, super violent, super like just like foreboding.
In your face,
in your face, visceral as fuck.
Yeah,
sorry. Visceral as
visceral as fuck, man. Let's let it explicit. Let's let it rock.
I mean, at the time, you didn't see anything like this. And I remember going to the theater with this crazy expectation of like, oh, it's gonna be like a kung fu movie, but it's gonna be a Marvel movie. Dad, tell me more about Blade. Let's go buy some Blade comics to educate myself. Luckily for me, it had nothing to do with the comic in a weird way. It kind of did its own thing, probably for the better, because
Blade then tailored himself to this because it was so good.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Kind of like it had the Harley Quinn effect.
Right. Yeah.
Where
right.
the outside source material was so good that it dictated the comics.
And I'm glad because honestly, the original Blade, like the comics,
was a 70s joke. It was kind of hokey.
It's like blaxploitation, but just like in a weird way. Like,
it was kind of like how Luke Cage was being handled.
Yeah, kind
where
of.
it was like, "Sweet Christmas, you jive turkeys," kind of weirdness. And they had to modernize it for now, which I think a lot. I can't stand David S. Goyer. I think he's a scumbag personally, but he had a lot to do with that. And I give a man credit where credit's due. That he helped modernize this character to the point where it was almost indistinguishable, and even you can see it in the future from like Spider-Man the animated series to even appearances as the Midnight Suns. That he was wearing black, his hair was cut a certain way, his sword was on his back in a weird way, the trench, the iconic look, right? And this movie has one of the best intros I've ever seen in my life. It's still top 10 for me of introduction to a hero. But before that, there's a shot of a pregnant woman being attacked by a vampire and then giving birth, and we find out that baby is Blade. You know, that's his origin pretty much. His mom was pregnant with him, Sanaa Lathan. She dies, quote unquote, in childbirth, and that's how a Daywalker is born. Apparently, it just was like lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
the Daywalker,
right? Not too dissimilar to the comics. I mean, it's Deacon. I mean, the difference is that Deacon Frost impregnated her himself. But don't even go into that, do they? No,
not in here.
What's weird is that in a weird way, his mother and Deacon Frost are in some sort of a relationship, like friends with benefits kind of thing.
That's later in the movie, which I thought was really grimy.
Yeah,
because it's like, why if. Okay, because that really irritates me. Because his mom, he's been dating his mom, and she's been in some kind of closet the whole time in his weird super techno house. He hasn't used this card to affect Blade this entire time. He just kept it a giant secret. Yeah. Like, why would he use her to his advantage way at the jump? Like, even if it's a moment where Blade is at his weakest, you could kill him immediately. And she's not even used to that effect. Even when he is captured, because he gets captured at every Blade movie. It's so formulaic.
It's a trope.
But yeah, she's just kind of there. Hey, Blade, I'm alive. I'm a vampire now. Isn't that hype? Anywho, we go to the scene where we're introduced to the world of the vampires. This is 30 years later, mind you. And we have the entrance of Tracy Lord.
Yeah.
Which is, I didn't know until I was an adult, like who this actress was. What had herself
former child porn star. Anyway, I had to throw it out there. Sorry.
That's fine. We're all about facts here on MOTN Reviews. No stone unturned. And she got herself a hoe snack, as they would say, and was taking him to the spot. And he thought he was just going to have a good time. And things start getting weirder the deeper he was walking into this club, because it was a meatpacking place originally, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And it's like he's like going into Dante's Inferno. Like he just start seeing weird things.
I loved that part too, because that's actually scared the shit out of me when I was a kid too.
Yeah, it was really
frightened.
trippy.
Yeah.
It was like what? Because you'll see body bags just hanging up at the butcher, and it's like, that's not meat. You know what I mean? And you start seeing like lifts everywhere, but we didn't understand that terminology just yet. And we get into the club, and the music is bumping. It's like this cool techno music that's going.
Crystal meth.
Yeah. Oh, so good. And everyone's looking at him, and it's like, that creeped me out.
Yeah, the Confusion is what it's called. Yeah.
Yes, very good song. I love that.
I still listen to that.
The original Blade soundtrack is sick as hell.
Yeah, it's dope.
And everyone's looking at him, and that's one thing I never liked as a kid, is when the room stops and shifts, and it's like, guy's like, what the hell? And then he looks up, and he starts seeing like red on him, and you find out that the whole entire sprinkler system is filled to burst with blood, and it starts raining blood.
That freaked me the hell out.
And everybody was drenched. You've never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I was super uncomfortable, but I loved it. I kept watching. It's like reeling you in.
That's what I like about the intro. I think it's one of the best intros in Marvel history for a hero, is that you're constantly reeled in very, very subtly, and then it's literally raining blood, and vampires start showing up and hissing and start looking at him, and he's you think this guy is done. Like, this is how the movie's going to enter. And then, is it just, does a vampire just explode? Blade shows up. Like, does this when he just explode?
So after that, that happens, and the guy's like, he's getting kicked around and shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they start kicking the crap out of him, right? Because they drop him.
Yeah, and then he's trying to crawl away, and then he comes up to this one dude that
calls to Blade.
And he sees the boots, and he looks up, and the camera pans up, and it's Blade, and he's in his full regalia,
half shadow.
Yep, just like
you just hear whispers,
and everyone's just like backing the hell up,
and
like,
it's like,
whoa!
Ooh. I remember the theater clapped when that happened. We were clapping like, "Yo, this is hype."
Well, dude, that's like the ominous.
It was well lit.
Yeah.
All you saw was the shades.
Yeah.
You saw his hair. You saw the light on his back, and everything else was black. And it's just like this cool, iconic look.
Yeah,
and it was on from then. And
but just the aura of it.
That Wesley brought so much to that role, like such a gravitas to that character.
That's actually what I meant, gravitas, exactly.
You know what I mean? And it just, ever since that jump, the movie was his.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every scene he was in, he stole.
Yeah.
That he was in, and you got that classic fight scene where it just kind of shows Wesley doing his own stunts because he practiced karate, as Hannibal King would say, and he's just whooping ass. And it's like you've never seen vampires taken out this way. He was using shotguns and stakes. And I remember watching a making of for this, and they were like, "How did you come up with the way vampires died?" He was like, "I was thinking." I was like, what if someone just had a cigarette and just smoked the entire cigarette in 1 second? And that's the effect I wanted. I wanted their whole body to ash up like a smoked cigarette with the fire at the tilt, and they just explode. And I was just like, that is a brilliant idea. And he does that scene where he throws, it was in the commercial, he throws kind of the weird predator batarang.
Yeah, the glaive.
The glaive.
Yeah, the glaive, yeah.
He kills 3 vampires and it wraps back around him. He does this cool smile.
Yeah.
Like, Blade is the coolest, dude. Whatever. And, man, it's so good.
But if we're going to get the nitty-gritty of it, we got to also talk about how some of that shit was kind of stupid, too.
Okay. I was waiting on that because I had problems with it as a kid.
Right.
I was like, because I would talk to my dad because he was the comic book nerd that made me a comic book nerd. I was like, so Dad, we're in the car. I'm like, or the bus. I forget what we were doing back then. Don't vampires need warm blood, like right out the body to drink? Like, wouldn't it be kind of wasteful to just pour blood on everybody that no one can drink? Was that real blood? And if it was, how did he get so much blood? My dad's like, Mike, like, don't worry about it. Like, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, did Blade drink the blood? Did he get strong that way? Was that why he kicked so much butt? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would she bring this guy for blood if there was mountains of blood? Why even bring people? And I was asking my dad this. He just was staring at me like, dude, like, you're thinking way too hard. I was like, no, this doesn't make any sense. This whole scene didn't make sense. Like, logistically.
Yeah. You know, also, like, he's shooting the vampires, right? Which is cool. But then he's staking a few of them. They disintegrate. But then he stakes one dude. He doesn't die. He knows he has to be a vampire.
Plot armor, dude.
Yeah, and then there was nobody. He was nobody. And then he kicks him in his head, and he never disintegrates.
It was anime rules, dude. You talking about Donald Logue?
Yeah, well, okay, no, I'm talking about before.
Oh, there was another scene.
There was another scene where he stakes someone in the chest.
Yeah,
like straight in the chest,
and they explode. Right?
He doesn't explode.
I forgot about that.
He doesn't. I remember this distinctly. Now I can pull it up for you because it's the craziest looking thing ever. he's shooting cats with shotgun shells and they're exploding. Right? Yeah, but then he stakes this one dude. He doesn't die, and so he's like, okay, I have no stakes. Bam! Right in his face.
Oh yeah. Okay, and then he ashes, right?
They never show it.
Oh, that's stupid. Okay, there's a lot of things wrong logistically with that intro scene. If you want to really break it down, because there's a lot of that guy should have ashed versus that. Why didn't he ash? Yeah. Was it just so he could get one more kick in,
right?
Or to do like a flip,
or like how he killed Tracy Lords. So she dies.
Yeah, because that's the one where he has a shotgun under her chin, right? And she does the hiss, and then he kind of he blows her brains out, and then she ashes. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because he kicks her, and she bends over frontwards to him, and then she hits in his face with the shotgun right under her chin. Yeah. And he goes, poof, and it does it to the beat, and that's how she goes. Oh man, crazy scene, dude. One of the best scenes in history because it's just so wacky.
Yeah, it is. And then we get to the part where he shoots Donald Logue.
Donald Logue, which is the Quinn, right? Yeah. The comedy relief of the movie.
He shoots him with the stake and he flies backwards.
He flies like 50 feet back from a hand shot because it was his hand, right?
Yeah. Well, no. It's from the launcher on the
the launcher it's like a stake launcher, right? But the stake launcher hits him like on a limb.
Yeah.
But he flies like 50 feet. Yes. If that was the case, wouldn't his arm just rip off? Why would it take his whole body?
Okay. The more important question is, why didn't he disintegrate?
Plot
armor, of course.
I don't know why Blade let this guy live so often, and it was kind of a running gag that Blade would not kill this guy.
Yeah,
like, he had maybe 3 opportunities to kill him, and one comes up immediately after this, and Blade does the arm pump, and it's almost like, I want you to live just to tell Deacon Frost that I'm on to him. Like not like this entire Club of Carnage couldn't have told Deacon Frost that in the first place.
Because he's having fun with it.
Because he's having fun. It's almost sadomasochistic. Yeah. Now that I think about it, Blade is kind of a scumbag. He's like Kratos. he's like Kratos from God of War. He's like the worst kind of person because he's playing with these people, right? Ay, Dios mío, man. So, man. So he's ready. So the club is owned by Deacon Frost, and one of the vampires get taken to the hospital, and it was Donald Logue, right?
Mm-hmm. After he burns
him, and he's literally how do you describe this level of burn? It's like
total.
It's total char.
Total char, man.
Like only thing you see are the yellows of his eyes and his vampire mouth, and it's almost crispy.
Yeah,
it's like burnt piece of chicken,
or like pork.
Yeah,
like fire roasted pork.
It's fire roasted pork that just sat there for like a day under the heat. And here's where we're introduced to the love interest, Karen, who's a hematologist, of course.
Right.
And she's talking to her, I guess, assistant who has a crush on her. They dated or something weird. That was an awkward little scene. But he comes back later because Donald Logue pops up and immediately bites everyone in the room. Like in 2 seconds. He bites homeboy and drains him almost completely. He bites her, and you're like, oh, that's stupid. How's this going to work out?
Right.
And as she's getting bit, she's going into that weird, I'm being bit by a vampire, so I can't move kind of motif. And you see Blade walking up, and he just punches homeboy dead in the face.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, I came back to finish you off.
You thought I forgot about you? And the dude's butt naked burnt to a crisp. I cuts it out. He's like, fuck you. Blade is just beating the shit out of him in an open hospital. Oh, man. And now that you're thinking about it as an adult, it just doesn't make sense.
It's stupid.
It's super stupid. Like, I never got the hero going to the hospital to finish off. Like, Punisher does it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how do you get away? Hospitals are damn near like police stations. Like, how do you get out of there? Well, the police show up and shoot Blade. The security shows up and just starts pumping bullets into Blade. Vampire lives matter, right? Didn't even talk to this guy. And Blade is a perfect Wesley Snipes like improv moment. It had to be improv.
Yeah, of course it was.
He's like, have y'all motherfuckers lost your minds? And he's bulletproof. I'm like, wait, Blade is bulletproof? That's like my dad was like, it was only chest shots. I was like, so you telling me that none of them hit him in the arm, in the leg, in the throat? It looked crazy close.
Okay. I have an explanation for that, actually.
What?
So technically, police officers are trained to shoot center mass and to shoot to kill.
Yeah.
Keep shooting. But obviously, when they saw the shit wasn't working, it's like, man, motherfucker, you crazy?
Y'all crazy? Y'all lost your damn minds?
Like, what the heck?
And they just stop. Right?
Yeah, like, and they just run away.
They run away. They're like, oh.
It's like, what
apparently
the hell?
He's a super.
I was like, what?
What the fuck? Okay, we get to the most heinous scene of the entire movie for me is they're escaping, and I want to say they're 5 stories up.
Yeah.
And there's a building maybe a block away. So Blade...
A block away and a few stories down.
And a few stories down, right? So Blade cracks open a window. He takes Karen and physically throws her from a block away, maybe 2 stories down, onto a building. And she's straight, right? She just tumbles.
Well, there was a tarp that she landed on.
I don't care if it was like one of those weird Lethal Weapon giant like suicide prevention bullets.
No, I agree. It's stupid.
It's super stupid.
dumb.
She should have been dead.
Yeah,
She ultra should have died. I don't care what's down there. It was like a tarp over like concrete, like covering pallets or something. And she just rolled off. And then Blade does a classic Wesley Snipes look back and smile, and he just jumps, he just huffs it, and lands on his feet like Morpheus from the Matrix and shit. And he rescues her, and now has she broken any laws, or is she just a captive at this point?
I
think she's
no,
just a captive.
she didn't. Yeah, she's just a captive.
And that's another thing that bothers me about Marvel vigilantes is that there's a dark side to them. Like, Blade should be public enemy number one as much as he interferes with human affairs to get at vampires. It's kind of like, I love this thing in comics where the Punisher sees himself as an anti-hero, but technically he's Marvel Comics' biggest unsolved mass murderer.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has like 20,000 people on his belt from when he started to current continuity.
Right.
And no one respects him. Like, he loves Captain America and what he stands for. Cap hates Punisher. He punches him every time he sees him, and Punisher's like, more dad. And Cap's like, what? He's like, what? But it's just Blade gets away with so much crap, and I guess it was the last movie, if we're jumping super in the future, where it makes sense. Like, this dude should be like on APBs all across the country.
Well, you also got to remember that in that movie too. Like, he is technically, because the vampires own the police.
Yeah, the vampires own the police. So why aren't they chasing him daily? I guess they just can't find him.
Probably because, actually, I think this was explained a little bit, not by Goyer but by somebody else. Basically, since all the cops are familiars. And the cops really don't want to fuck with Blade.
Yeah, because they might die.
Yeah,
because Blade kills familiars.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
Yeah, he will put a bullet between your eyes in a minute.
In a hot minute, or make you a trap to catch more vampires. Nobody wants to be that.
I mean, so if they were to actually do that, they can do that all day they want, but Blade's going to shoot at police and win still.
And win, because he's still Blade, right? It's like, why chase the Punisher if we're all going to die?
He has, at any given time, he always has more arsenal than they ever do.
And he has superhuman strength and healing factors and all types of weird shit. Yeah. And he knows kung fu.
Yeah.
And it's just,
he's got miniguns.
Why bother with that dude?
He's got miniguns. He's got shotguns.
He's got a Blade mobile that can't be defeated by modern man. So I could see they're just like, you know what? If we run into him, we'll do something, but we don't want to go chase this man.
Yeah.
It's like trying to hunt down Batman. He'll fucking die. This guy is obviously crazy, dude.
Right.
It's like,
unless you want an RPG shot at
you.
it's
Gotham's answer to Batman. It's like, if we see him, we'll try to apprehend him, but we're not chasing this guy. We're all gonna die, dude. This dude is super nuts and he's real powerful. So Blade takes it back to her house, the Blade Cave, which is this weird industrial, like super.
Yeah, it's a train yard.
It's a train yard, right?
Okay, that part bothers me too, because it's like, how the hell do you fucking like hide? How do you have a train yard as a hideout?
How much money does Blade have?
Like,
is Blade a millionaire?
What?
Is okay. And going into intros, we're introduced to Whistler, who's a big character in Blade. He's like his mentor. He found Blade when he was a kid and trained him how to be a vampire hunter. But Whistler has to be a millionaire, right? It's all financed by Whistler, I think.
Okay, so tech, but
and plus Blade robs vampires. Remember, he takes like the gold watch, and she's like, I gotta finance this some kind of way.
Yeah, exactly. I forget. I think Whistler actually was a mechanic, but he also dabbled in the sciences too.
Yeah, he's kind of like Alfred,
right?
He's Blade's Alfred, where he's a mechanic. He's also a technical marvel because he creates all of Blade's crazy weapons. He created Blade's serum, so that even makes him maybe a hematologist himself.
Right, exactly.
So he was like a one-man band, because he's been hunting vampires since forever,
right?
Since his family got killed, back in the day. So he was already a vampire hunter. He was hunting Blade, and found out that Blade was special, and turned him to the light side of the force, I guess. So they have a vampire, like a vampire kind of like cure that they give her. It's like, look, man, we're gonna give you this cure. It works sometimes it doesn't. Depends on how far along you are. You can go now, but we would suggest you just chill here for a while. If you turn, we're going to kill you. If you don't turn, you're straight. And it's like, why wouldn't they be giving this to all hospitals? Well, it's like you can't
actually,
give.
what it was a extract of allium, of garlic.
Yeah.
And it was synthesized with something else.
It was like, this will kill the vampire gene that's still trying to take over your system. It works. Sometimes it doesn't.
Right.
But if you're not turned, you're good. You know, and she perfects that during the course of this movie, right? Right,
because she see what Whistler was doing. He was taking it from an external factor. He was using it from an actual like almost a homeopathic kind of way.
Right.
She did it on a cellular level.
Yeah.
So
she was curing cats on a cellular, like even cats who've been vampires could be cured from this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we get a bit more into Blade's secret war with vampires and just explain what exactly Blade is. And he's, as stated in the film, all of their strengths, none of their weaknesses. So he has super strength, he has heightened senses, but he's immune to sunlight, garlic, silver. But he does age like a normal person, and he still has the thirst. Right. And that's his weakness. But it doesn't seem like a weakness because when he does drink, he turns into Super Blade. Right. He's nigh defeatable at that point. And he kind of explains, like, you're part of this world now. Deal with it. Like, even if you're cured and I let you go, they're aware of you now. So they're going to be keeping tabs on you and probably either trying to kill you or turn you again. Yeah. So it's probably best you stick with me and I help you through this situation now. And of course, she's not trying to hear it because she's of the world and not trying to be a part of any of what's going on. I'm trying to see what else was going on in the movie at this point. And so both Blade and her tell her to leave the city. They say just get out of town because they're on their radar. And here we're introduced a little bit more into Deacon Frost. Deacon Frost is the damn coolest. He's having a meeting with the elder vampires, which are all like old, kind of like you said,
they're a council of
the council of New York vampires. Yeah. And it makes you think, like, because there's other vampire sects around the world. So is this just the U.S. sect? Is this the New York sect? Is this the Bronx sect? They're everywhere, quote unquote. So it's like this can't be the hive mind of vampirism in the world. Of
course.
Because there's no way they would have let Deacon Frost do what he does later.
Well, yeah, of course.
If this was the infrastructure of all vampirism, there's no way, right? Because they would have shot him down. So he's kind of like the young upstart vampire of his sect, which is all the young kind of current kids, which is ran by this weird blonde. I don't know. I don't even know if she's named in the film. The one that has the weird European accent.
Yeah.
She wears that slinky white dress all the time.
Yeah.
She's kind of cool.
Well, actually, I think she's annoying, but
she's super annoying.
Yeah,
but I think she stands out. And of course, Donald Logue is part of his squadron as well. And the elder vampires understand that there has to be a balance between humans and vampires, and that we have to stay in the shadows because that's what works. We feed, we do whatever we want. We can be. They're pretty much trying to be Interview with a Vampire, where he's trying to be Queen of the Damned, right? He's trying to be. It's just, why are we even bothering? Catering, as he would say, these people are our food. Yeah, right. Why are we even dealing with them? Let's just take over everything we can. And they're like, that is stupid. We're going to get eradicated. Yeah. You're causing you're going to bring more heat to us than we actually need. We need to just do things how they're doing. And so that spurns Deacon Frost to start researching into alternate means to get what he needs to get done. You know what I mean? And then it goes to he's not a pureblood, so he doesn't have official reign over everyone. And that's where I was talking about earlier. It's like pureblood versus transmitted vampirism. And it's like, what exactly is a pureblood when it comes to a vampire? Unless you're Dracula, right? Who's the original, God damned human that became immortal. then
Yeah, I mean,
isn't there just a bloodline?
He literally said he was born a vampire.
How does that work? Because vampires can't reproduce.
Right.
Apparently they can in this universe, but it's never brought up again.
Right.
Other than Damaskinos, which was the main villain of
Blade
2.
2, yeah.
But even then, his daughter was a born vampire. But they never explain how that happens. Like it irritates me because it's like I can't think scientifically how that would work, especially if you're immortal because your body doesn't need to run on things to go.
It's kind of it's kind of based on, well, not based on this. It's kind of what they based Underworld on.
Yeah,
actually, how vampires are actually biological beings, and they do need hemoglobin
to power them.
Yeah, even though so technically, and Whistler says this too.
Yeah,
like he says, they need blood to survive because their own blood can't sustain hemoglobin.
Yeah, and that's the scientific means behind that.
And technically, what that means is that they're all a bunch of pale people who also are vampires.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
and it's kind of like the strain, I guess. Yeah. The modernization of the romanticism of vampires is that they're living beings in a weird way.
Yeah.
It's just that their metabolism is solely based on hemoglobin, which slows down their aging.
Right.
So you could technically be born a vampire, but you still can't transmit the virus, which is pretty much what it is.
Yeah. Funny fact: Guillermo del Toro, who was I think he was the director of Blade 2.
Yes, he was.
He does the strain.
Yes, and that was his. And if you look at Reapers versus,
they look exactly
alike, don't they?
He's cannibalizing his own work,
which is fine, I guess, because he wanted to further explore that idea.
Yeah.
And I hate the strain. The strain was way too uncomfortable for me, like on a biological, because it was so biological. It was like body horror.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like that, man. There was one scene where the mom got turned the stupid way, and she acted it so well that it turned me off the show. Because it wasn't like, I'm sorry to derail, but the strain is crazy. It wasn't like when her little weird stickler thing came out of her mouth, she was like, hey, and shouted at you. It was like she had a gag reflex and she couldn't control it. Like she was throwing up, and it just happened to throw up that, and she got her first bite. I was like, I don't like that, man. That's too real, dude. Like, I was really uncomfortable. It made me really uncomfortable. I was like, FX. I was like, please do not no longer TiVo this. I am done. But this movie kind of plays with the supernatural versus just these are biological creatures. Because if the ending had there's nothing biological about the ending of this movie.
Right.
It's all supernatural.
Right. Exactly.
Which honestly, the series never took that kind of road again. Mm-hmm. If you think about,
no, it didn't.
Even Dracula was explainable on a biological, scientific level,
right.
Especially the Reapers. Mm-hmm. But what happened at the end of this movie never happened again.
Right.
And we'll get there because it's truly madness. So after their discussion that humans are socially inferior, Deacon just went off to do his own thing and said, I'm just going to handle this. And then we cut back to Karen, who's actually going back to her apartment trying to do her normal life thing. And there's a cop there just floating around. And Blade gave her some garlic mace just in case. Yeah. And the cop is trying to get a hold of her. And he sprays it in his face. She's like, what'd you do that for? He's like, because you're a vampire, right? It kills you. He's like, I'm just a human, dude. And Blade was like, exactly. And Blade was just in the house. He just punched the dude out, was kicking his ass. He's like, he's a familiar. You had these weird glyph tattoos which designates that you're a familiar. And familiars are all through the series. Mm-hmm. And they're all through literature as well. Kind of like, if you think about Dracula, like he mentioned him because he's one of them. He is the vampire. What was the name of Dracula's familiar? Renfield.
Yeah, Renfield. Yeah.
Renfield was the first familiar, his raving lunatic helper who did stuff for him during the day.
Right.
And that's the cops. That's all the people, I guess, in City Hall. Everyone just through the streets of New York. There's familiars everywhere running things while the vampires sleep. So Blade was going to use was going to use that familiar to get some more information to locate more information on the archive for vampire history because they needed to look into what Deacon Frost was really his end game.
Right.
And here we come to a scene that I really thought was kind of not needed, and this is the fat vampire scene.
Yeah, the Pearl, whatever.
Pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they go visit Pearl, and Pearl pretty much make sure I'm not jumping anything. We find out that Blade uses the serum, which is I'm not sure if that was in the comics before. Was that a comics thing, or was that this first? This
started with Blade.
Okay, the serum, which is once again, Whistler's a damn genius because he fixed this up himself. Was kind of like a hemoglobin extract or maybe some kind of synthetic blood. Yeah, that Blade would like almost like an asthma inhaler, which is another reason I liked it because I was asthmatic as a kid. Still am. And he would take his asthma pump and he would freak out for a second, and then his hunger will be slated for another night.
Well, actually, he still had to inject him with him in the first film. The inhaler didn't come till later.
Oh, right. Yeah. The inhaler is Blade 2.
Yeah.
And Blade 1.
Blade 3.
But is it Blade 3? I thought it was Blade
3.
2. But he had these crazy super blood vials that he would inject into his neck. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I misthought that. Yeah. And he would freak out, right. And he was real awkward about it. He didn't want no one to see him while he did it. He was real socially awkward. He's like, don't look at me. I'm in my most vulnerable moments. So... And Karen was like, yeah, there's probably easier ways to do that. Blade's like, whatever. This is all I know. I've been doing this since I was a kid. Leave me alone. And she's like, I'm going to look into that for you. He's like, whatever. So that's crazy. So, but they do mention what's funny in the notes is that the serum was beginning to lose its effectiveness because due to overuse, like any drug.
Of course.
So he's starting to having to use it more often. So Karen discovers that, she accidentally made like this weird vampire coagulant by mixing something else with like the serum. It just makes their blood explode. Right. He was like, that could be interesting. Can you synthesize that into a weapon?
Yeah, I think it was the DDTA or something like that. I forget the actual. I think it's deoxy something. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Right. So Karen is messing around, and she literally creates a fear for vampirism. And she's not some, world-renowned hematologist. She's just a hematologist at the local hospital that had a chance to look at this. Right. Makes me think that Whistler hasn't talked to anyone about this, not a scientist, not a doctor, not even another hunter. It's just been them two. And I know that's not true in the comics because there's vampire hunters all through Marvel Comics. And the Midnight Suns are a big one.
And Hannibal King
and his squadron. I forget what they're called. And Whistler's daughter, because she's actually canon, isn't she?
I don't remember.
I don't remember, man. Blade comics are like really, they're good, but they're also dense, man. Yeah. So, let's see. Sorry for the dead air here.
Oh no, it's fine.
So yeah, well,
another thing with Karen is that even what I love about her is that she's incredibly smart. Yeah, incredibly smart. She's a woman of color who's also incredibly smart. Yes. One of the other things that's important to know about this movie is because, again, she's not perceived as some sort of streetwalker.
She's not a damsel.
Yeah, right. She's not a damsel in distress. She can take care of herself.
And she's, like you said, she's a woman of color.
Right.
And she's extremely smart. Right. And she's never a step behind. Right. She's a step ahead for most of it. Right. Even when they're captured. Like even when, and that goes back, thank you for mentioning that, because that's another thing Black Panther is held by is women of color being awesome. It's like, no, in Blade, we have plenty good representation in this film as well from both sides of the equation, because she was just as much a hero as Blade was. I mean, this gives me on a weird little tirade that you don't have to be the hero to be the hero. And it makes me think, like, everyone asks, being a nerd, people ask you, who's your favorite Dragon Ball character, right? And my answer is always Bulma. And they're like, why? And it's stupid. I'm like, no, Bulma, if it wasn't for Bulma, nothing would, the series would have never happened. Goku would have never found so-and-so. She created time travel so that XYZ can happen. She created the time chamber so he can train. It's crazy. Bulma's the best. Anyway, moving on.
Let's not talk about Dragon Ball Super though. I really don't like that show.
I got flamed on a group I go on because I said, isn't Dragon Ball Super just one giant movie?
It's one giant Gaiden fucking movie.
It's one giant Gaiden.
And Goku is the most annoying he's ever been in his life.
Goku,
and I want him to die so many times over. But we'll get into that later.
That's another show, but I just want to say that Goku, in so facto, almost caused the destruction of multiple universes. Just because he's an overzealous asshole.
He's a moron.
And he's a bad father.
I mean, he's more of a moron than he ever was.
Super does him no... It makes him worse. Anyway, so they get back to their lair, and Deacon Frost somehow finds the lair, right? And they pretty much turn Whistler and leave him for dead.
Yeah.
And help me out here. How did they find his lair? And B, why did they go there in the first place? Were they just looking for Blade?
I don't
remember.
They were looking for Blade. Whistler obviously wouldn't give him up. I don't know how they found the place, actually. I have no idea how they found the place. Yeah, well, then again, is it really that hard?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's my whole point.
Why
are people going for Blade? It's a giant train yard in New York where it's all condensed. There's cameras everywhere. Yeah, it doesn't make any damn sense.
So, but yeah, they were looking for Blade, and basically he was like, hey, fine, if you're going to bite me, do it. And Deacon's like, I'm not going to bite you. I'm just going to kick your ass.
Yeah, I'm just going to beat you to death.
Then I'm going to bite you.
And then bite you.
Yeah.
So Karen's there with Whistler while Blade is out getting groceries or something. Yeah. And he comes back, and Karen's gone, kidnapped him. Yeah. And Whistler explains, man, they found me in chicken shits, and they left. They're trying to turn me. And he's like, just kill me. Like, I'd rather die than become a vampire. And it's this weird moment where Blade doesn't kill him; he just leaves him the gun, leaves him the Full Metal Jacket, as it were. And you hear the shot. We all assume that Whistler's dead. Mm-hmm. Okay, you kill off Whistler in the first movie. Good job. But later we find out that they back down really hard on that one. Right. So Blade, and there's this weird scene where Blade meets Deacon Frost somewhere. Like he meets him at the beach
in the Chinatown.
In Chinatown,
yeah, Chinatown.
And Deacon Frost is able to be outside because he's wearing sunblock, which is the stupidest. Why bother being a daywalker if you could just do that? I hate that idea. I hate it. Like, what kind of sunblock is this?
Like,
and why are vampires
1000 or something?
Why are vampires just using it? Like, I get it. Like, there's certain lore where they have to rest, otherwise they get sick. Like in True Blood and stuff like that. If you don't rest, you're gonna die. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Like, he's just up listening to music and shit, like during the day, and he has his little girl captured, and he's telling them like, "Hey, if you want Karen back, meet me at my house. We're just gonna hang out." And he throws the kid in front of a car, or in front of a bus, and Blade, of course, saves the kid. And Deacon.
But before that, it's also important to note that he said something to Blade about his mom.
Yeah,
and
like
every time
cut you from your mother's.
He didn't even get to finish, and as soon as he said mother, he pulled out his fucking Mac 10.
Mac 10. His Eddie. He pulled out his Murphy gun.
Yeah, RoboCop.
The RoboCop.
And like
Alex Murphy.
He had dead ass aim right in his head.
Yeah.
And then and this is the other thing that I don't get. This is the worst part for me.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Go for it.
But okay. He's shooting him. Deacon should be dead. You can't. No other vampire can outrun bullets except for Deacon. But he's not even a pure blood.
He's not even a pure blood, and it's the most plot armor shit ever. Because if that was the case, why weren't all the vampires dodging him in the first part of the movie? Why was it just a bunch of Matrix shit? Nobody got hit. Blade's like, oh, I guess I have to sword you bastards. But Deacon blocked a headshot. Deacon wasn't a special vampire.
He wasn't.
Not until he wasn't Dracula. He wasn't even Lamagra. You make a good point, because he had the Alex Murphy pointed at his head.
Yeah,
and he literally just he jucked it, and I was like,
and it was without warning.
Without warning,
because Blade
did a quick draw to his head and was like, "Coom," and he dodged it. I'm like,
he shot multiple bullets at him,
and he just matrixed his way out of the way. And I'm like, no, You make a good point. Screw that scene, dude. Like, and then he throws the kid, and Blade catches him. You just see Deacon like kind of Naruto run into the crowd. He Naruto's into the shadows.
Oh, I hate that scene.
I fucking hate that scene. Why'd you bring that up?
Because it's important.
It's
if
super.
You're going to talk about them being outside, first of all, which is also ridiculous.
Yes.
Talk about the entire thing, which is ridiculous all the way around.
That's a point Blade shot from like a back 10 on full auto. The fuck? Sorry, stupid as hell. So Blade goes to rescue Kara from Frost's house. Let's not forget the part where Deacon's been doing research on Lamagra this whole time. And he somehow overpowers and captures all of the ancients of the board of the Cabal of Vampires.
Right.
From my understanding, the older you are as a vampire, the more badass you are.
Right.
Through age, you gain powers and shit. Like, you can turn into bats and you have super strength. And you can turn into vapor and animals and shit. Being a vampire in the Marvel Universe sucks,
it really
dude.
does.
Unless you are Dracula.
Because literally, you're just a human.
You're a human with heightened... You don't even have heightened strength.
Yeah.
Really? Like, other than him throwing that child, which honestly, it's a kid, so anyone who's crazy enough could have done it.
Right.
Is there any superhuman feats that vampires do outside of Deacon Frost in any of the movies? That's superhuman. Even Triple H in Trinity was not doing superhuman feats.
I mean, well, besides him his arm getting broken and switching it back in place.
That's accelerated healing.
Yeah, but I mean, other than that, no.
No,
right.
So I'm like, being a vampire, unless you're Dracula or like Lilith or something crazy, like damn near deity, then being a vampire sucks, man. It's like all you can do is just have money, have a good credit or something. I don't know, but he captures the council. He's preparing his big ceremony to awaken Lamagra. Nobody knows what's actually going to happen,
right?
And even the council's like, this is all mumbo jumbo. Like, you're just going to kill us. Like, nothing cool is going to happen. And Deacon's like, no. He found these ancient scriptures that no one else has found.
Right.
And Donald Logue is super hyped because he's like, yeah, we're going to be gods, dude. It's going to be sick. And
I mean, it was just going to be him, not the rest of them.
Why don't people ever see that? Like, if Skeletor gets the ultimate power, guess what? Guess what? Lizard, what Mankian was?
Yeah.
Guess what? Evil Len. He's not sharing any of the power. It's gonna be him. All the underlings are gonna eat it ultra hard because he's now in godhood. And I did want to mention one of the coolest parts of the movie is where the old guys try to talk shit to Deacon. Deacon's listening to that cool techno music that's playing backwards.
Right.
I searched for years to find what that song was because it was like this. He was like, "What is he listening to?" It's so cool. I love Deacon Frost so much. He's the best.
Tano, that's what that dude's name was. The older vampire.
Okay, yeah.
That was his name. I remember that.
Yeah, Tano.
I had to search deep in here.
Oh man, you're a better man than I. I could not remember that guy's name. Saved my damn life. So they're preparing the blood feast because you need blood for the blood god, which is Lamagra, which I've never heard that word again uttered in any Marvel anything ever. They super made that shit up. So he goes to his house and Blade finds his mom just laying up. Like, What is going on? So of course it throws him for a loop, which I don't understand because there's no reason why he should know what his mom looks like.
Right.
That's another big plot point.
No.
He's like, who is she? Someone should have had to explain that because it's on site where he sees her. Yeah. And she's like, Eric? He's like, what? And then for that second, they do the classic, let's just taser Blade to knock him down situation. And then Deacon walks in and just tongues her down in front of Blade. And like you said, like, what was the situation going on with those two? And why wasn't she used to alter Blade's judgment in the past? And Blade's been this reoccurring problem for years.
Let me just say this. And this is probably in post of that movie.
Yeah.
Which is the reason why they probably did it, because it wouldn't have made any goddamn sense when he got to this part. But if you remember when in the hospital he sees Karen and she's bitten, he's just going to leave her.
Yeah, he was going to leave her. And then he saw his mom.
Yeah. That's probably why they did that, because the shit wouldn't have made any sense otherwise.
I don't care if you're a half-blood, I don't care if you're Captain America, you're not going to remember your mom's face from birth.
Exactly.
I don't.
So
what?
So
no.
to make some kind of sense.
They tied that in, but it still doesn't make sense because
Right.
unless he's a time traveler,
Exactly.
he shouldn't know what his mom looks like in the first place.
Exactly.
Should have been another vampire that he staked that happened to be black.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? You make a very good point. This movie's. I love this movie to death, but it has some plot holes, babe. All right, you have to swerve your car if you're watching this shit. Hallelujah. So they capture Blade, and Blade is subdued, and of course his blood is drained to feed the blood god, because Daywalker blood is of course essential to this ritual. And at first I was like, that's dumb, because if Blade Walker's a brand new thing, then why would it be needed for an ancient ritual? Right. But I think Daywalkers have existed in the past. Yeah. Dracula was technically a Daywalker. Right. So there could be some precedent to it being like the chosen one or something like that.
Dhampir, that word is used actually in the original comics or in Kanan or whatever. So yeah, he's not the first.
He's not the first. It's just extremely rare and for weird circumstances.
Right.
There could have been mute, because look at Morbius. He's technically not. He's a Daywalker. Right. But he's under a weird circumstance. Why wasn't Morbius ever in any of these movies, dude? He could have been in 2.
Because
Michael Morbius is cool.
Because he's actually in the comics. He's the reason why Blade actually gets all his powers. Yeah, he bites Blade, and then Blade becomes an actual the Daywalker that we know in the movie. Yeah, because before Blade was just a regular dude. Right. He was just a vampire hunter. Right. And that was their excuse. This was done in the 90s, mind you, to make him more like. Kind of like how White Spider-Man got organic webbing in the 90s. Yeah. Yep. So the next thing that happens is actually Blade is then captured, and which he's always captured in these damn movies. Yeah, it's the most annoying trope. About all this entire series.
And I wonder where they take Blade, because there's some kind of weird temple that seems thousands of years old, but they're still in New York. Yeah. Like, did they fly him out?
I don't,
because that's not in a penthouse. It could be.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that was a weird set.
I mean, it's not Canada. I mean, I don't know where
Wolverine is in the back.
I don't know where the hell it was. It had to have been somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, because there's no way it was in New York.
No, it had to have been somewhere in in Sumeria, not Sumeria, but I forget where Sumeria is now. It's modern day.
Because they don't talk about it. Make you think like it's just down the street. Like make you think like it's inside Deacon House's penthouse. Because it's such a seamless transition. There's no like flight. There's no Indiana Jones map thing.
It's in the desert.
It's in the desert somewhere.
Because when he exits out of the temple, you can clearly see that there's dust.
There's dust. Yeah. So I think that was there's probably a cut scene that links those two together. And another one of the coolest scenes in Marvel history is the birth of La Magra, which is so badass, where there's this weird, elaborate blood. It's almost like a video game thing trope where the blood makes a puzzle, and then the blood drips on all the foreheads of all the ancient ones. Right. And then there's this cool scene where it's the most science fiction shit that's ever been in Marvel outside of like Doctor Strange, is where their mouths split open and these vampire spirits fly out of their throats. It's almost like their skeleton leaving their body, and they are like zooming around, and it's like real fantastical. And they start flying through Deacon, and they're like, "Well, something's wrong. They're trying to kill Deacon," and everybody's screaming, and it's like this big whirlwind of stuff happening. And it's this quiet moment where they all fly into Deacon at the same time, and he's blown like 50 feet back. Right. And they're like, "Deacon Frost?" He like to say such a corny line, and he's like, "Not anymore." And Karen saves herself because she's in the pit with her friend from the beginning of the movie, right? Who they've been letting gnaw on himself this entire time. Right. And he's like, "Karen, do you think we could still work out?" And she makes it look like she may be part vampire for a split second because she's trying to claw out the hole.
She took some. Okay, that's another dumb part about that. She took some bones and was like clawing her way out of a
sheer
45-degree slant.
Yeah.
Of like a vent, like a pit, like where they throw stuff in.
Yeah.
At least another chamber.
He didn't do that?
She was climbing out of it. No, it wasn't him. It was.
No, I mean, why did he do that?
Anyway,
and she makes a grimace like she's turning vampire. It's very misleading. I don't know. I didn't like that part because it's not mentioned again. And so she goes to free Blade, and he's strapped up in this weird kind of like operation. It almost reminds me of the board game Operation.
Right.
Lounger, where they slit his wrist and drain him of all his blood, and she unzaps him, and he just falls face first into the ground. And there's the most awkward scene ever. It's such bullshit. Is where he starts drinking her, and it's the most weirdly sexual moment ever. And it's really weird because it's almost like those old 90s like softcores where it's like scene and then scene and then scene, and then she's like super dead. She should be dead at this point because he drained like a gallon from her. He refilled his own body, has lost blood with hers. And she should be turned again at that point, should she?
Well, no,
because he's technically not a vampire.
He
doesn't transmit.
He doesn't trans. He's a carrier. He doesn't. Oh, I'm sorry. No, vampires don't. They don't turn other people into vampires because they're not vampires.
They're not vampires themselves. So she's drained, and this is where I say Blade gets the natural blood power up because he's now faster than light at this point. He jumps up, he grabs his coat, and he does this cool swan dive from the top of the temple all the way. He puts his jacket on at the same time, and he does the very first, at least that I can remember, superhero Deadpool making fun of landing.
Yeah.
I can't think of an earlier superhero landing than that. Even Batman didn't do the knee on the ground, hand, and then the head lifts up.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then Donald Logue does the stupidest thing in villain history, and he rushes the Super Saiyan Blade with his own shades on. And Blade has this weird little kind of like
he has a garrote.
He has a garrote,
which you never see that up until which is super cool.
It's super cool. You never see it again either.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a momentary thing, and he pretty much cuts him in half.
Yeah.
And his glasses flip into the air. Yeah. It's the first time he does the catch glasses out of midair, and then the Chemical Brothers come back on it, and he puts on the shades and like, oh shit! And they give Blade plenty of fodder to show how badass he is. And he's literally doing Dragon Ball shit at this point. He's kicking dudes through walls. He's doing quick backflips. He gets his sword back at some point.
He's ripping people's necks off and
shit.
Yeah,
man. He's like breaking dudes' necks and split second speed, and it's a really well done action scene, if not one of the silliest things you'll see in the world.
Yeah.
And Blade then actually confronts Deacon Frost, which is kind of, I wish they did more with the Lamagra transformation, other than his eyes just being bloodshot red, because he looks normal. He doesn't get a Super Shredder power up where he's all buff or doesn't look any different. He's just, hey, I'm Deacon Frost. Yeah. I'm gonna get you. That's why Blade doesn't take him seriously. And Blade just pretty much, once again, just cuts him from his stomach up.
Yeah.
And it's such a bad CG scene, but it was so dope as a kid.
Right.
Where his body flips up high in the air.
Yeah. And
the blood pulls him back together. And you hear, and it's probably one of the bigger F-bombs dropped that wasn't dropped. You just see Wesley mouth, what the fuck? Yeah. It's such a cool moment. And then Deacon says, my turn. And he does this bleach like phase shift.
Yeah.
And like where he has Flash level speed now. And Blade's like, what? And then Deacon punches him into like the next universe. And Karen's having a weird duel with Blondie Mick Silky Dress. Yeah. And that's how Blade gets his sword back. And pretty much the fight scene's going on, and Blade had that weird scene where they're having the sword off, where he's in the trailer. And Blade's pretty much losing at this point because there's nothing you can do. Mm-hmm. And Blade gets the bright idea to use his new coagulants to overload him. And that's and then the best line in the movie happens where Blade uses his sword to knock the coagulants loose. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're going to get your trusty serum? Yeah. And he's like, and he hits him like 50 times in the chest with it. Yeah. Deacon's like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
And Deacon starts to morph, like anime, kind of like Akira style.
Yeah.
And Blade says, the line, some motherfuckers always try to ice skate up here.
Yeah.
And he throws it. And he does an anime boot kick to the thing that was dead on and hits him right in the face. And
crazy accuracy, but yeah.
Crazy accuracy. And the history of that line is Wesley didn't want to keep that take because he ad-libbed it.
Right.
And everybody was like, that's the coolest shit ever. What did you think of that? He's like, I was just messing around. Cut it. It's stupid. That doesn't even sound right.
But it actually makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes perfect sense.
And I've been
talking
saying
with Deacon Frost, who's trying to
do the impossible.
Yeah.
And Blade is like, you're nothing to me but another dead vampire.
Yeah.
And that has been his thing throughout his entire... He said, I don't care how godhood level you are. You're just another dead vampire to me.
Yeah.
And that was constantly proven throughout the series. And Deacon Frost explodes in a big, giant, bloody, kind of like Evil Dead-like situation. And he finds Karen, he gets her, and they go outside to India. And I don't know where they were, because it's not New York.
Yeah.
And the movie goes off. She's like, I'm gonna give you a better serum. That's what the last thing she says.
Well, no, she's just gonna give him a cure.
A cure, right, for himself. And he's like, keep your cure. Just make me a better serum.
Yeah.
That's what's up. And the movie ends with this weird scene in Moscow where this lady's about to get gamed up by a random vampire. And Blade's like, he's like, double ADM, bitches. He starts speaking Russian to the dude. And he does a cool move, and the movie cuts off. The end. Introductions to Blade. The impact this had on the genre is unfathomable to me, because it didn't really impact horror, because it's not a horror film.
No.
Even though it's bathed in horror.
Right.
It's not an action film because it's too horror.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a horror film because it's too action. It's kind of its own. It's always been its own weird thing, and it really opened up. I would say filmmakers to say we can take this stuff seriously. Kind of. Bryan Singer, can I do a serious X-Men movie that maybe not just take itself too seriously, but at least don't treat it like Adam West, Batman, Sam Raimi. With what they did with X-Men, can we make an actually decent Spider-Man film? It just was opened so many minds to this genre, and it was the birth of the genre. Honestly, for the modern genre, it was the birth of the modern MCU. It was the great grandfather, the precursor to what we're living in now, which is 5 movies a year, and Infinity War breathing down our next month. If it wasn't for Blade, none of this probably would have never been this way. It would have existed. Marvel would still be bankrupt. DC, it would probably all be coming from DC and would not be as good, sadly enough. It would still be one-shots. It would still, no cinematic universes would have been created. It would be a very different world we live in. Better? Who knows? But you can thank Blade for all of that. You know what I mean? And I think this movie's a testament to that, to like that new way of thinking.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? Any passing thoughts on Blade before we close this bad boy out?
Yeah, Blade, even though I'm old, I mean, I'm not old, but even though I'm older, you know, and even though as an adult I realize how stupid some of these scenes are, this is still one of my favorite Marvel movies because of the fact that it was the first really R-rated movie I saw as a kid, number one. And number two, it really made me look at, you know, I mean, first of all, I didn't see Blade as a superhero.
Me neither.
I saw him as a badass dude who kills evil people. Yeah. Not a superhero. Well, and then, as you would call an anti-hero. Yeah. And then the third reason why Blade's my favorite movie is because the attitude of it all.
The swagger.
Swagger, exactly. Yeah. The attitude, the swagger, the coolness of it. It's just, it really shaped a lot of how I judge movies in terms of action. Mm-hmm.
It changed the way action films progress. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't Arnold mowing down 100 dudes. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't Bruce Willis. You know.
It had style.
Had style.
It was extremely violent still.
It was extremely violent, and it paved the way for things like Devil May Cry. Right. You know, the trench coat, you know what I mean, became a superhero staple. You know what I mean? From that look, the duster, right? Yeah. And it was just this. And the Matrix took a lot from Blade. What came first, the chicken or the egg? I don't remember the date on Matrix.
Actually, if I remember correctly, I think
Blade came.
No. Matrix came first, I believe.
Wow. Okay, then that makes a little bit more sense in the opposite direction,
right?
Because for what Matrix did for comics and anime,
they came out in the same year, 98.
98 was a hell of a year for movies, dude.
Yeah.
Like Event Horizon came out that year, jeez. But it was just a very like genre. You can see a lot of those movies in stuff now. You know what I mean? It's just so iconic. And to think both of these movies were being made around the same time, that these guys had the same idea.
Blade came out first. I'm sorry. Matrix came out in 99.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That means that they were both working on something.
Right.
Because while Blade was coming out, Matrix was in production.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that their costume designs were already planned out.
Right.
So it's like two separate minds came up with the same idealistic style, which was the mix of Japanese anime with kind of that Wu-Ping Tokyo kind of kung fu choreography with American literature.
And you know what the even craziest part about it is that both series had the worst the third movie ever.
It really
They both
goes.
had really bad. They both had really, really bad three-parters.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially when it's not the same vision. How many trilogies have the same director? You know what I mean? It's hard to keep that vision straight. You know what I mean? Like some of the best trilogies of all time. My opinion, my favorite trilogy of all time is the Evil Dead trilogy because it's all Raimi. In my opinion, the Ocean's trilogy is a solid trilogy to me. It's all the same director, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Sonnenberg.
Actually, it is, yeah.
You know, it's if you allow the guy to have a solid vision throughout, you'll have gold. But you know, studios are impatient. The X-Men trilogy could have been perfect if they just would have waited for Singer to do what he wanted to do. Could have. Because X2 was better than X1, in my opinion.
I'll agree with that.
And who knows what X3 would have been in Singer's hands, handling the Phoenix Saga. That would have been tough because they can't handle it now. News.
Honestly, to be fair with you, I finally saw Apocalypse. And
that movie's rough, dude. It's rough, man.
Everything about that movie is just very badly written. Everything about that movie is very badly written.
Because they don't care, dude. I could talk about this on Blue in the Face, is that people ask why Marvel is winning. It's because Kevin Feige actually gives a shit. You know what I'm saying? And the studios don't. They want money. And they say, write whatever you want, do whatever you want. And it doesn't translate, you know?
Yeah.
But I definitely echo that about Blade. 1 is my favorite. 2 is good. 3 is trash. That's how I see it. It literally goes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
In quality, in writing, in action scenes. Don't get me wrong, Guillermo did a good job with 2, but 1 just sticks in my head, kind of like how I like Batman 89 better than Batman Returns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's not better. 89 is not better than Returns. I just like it more.
Right. Yeah.
Like Blade 1 technically isn't better than Blade 2. Kinda.
I don't know. Honestly, it just got weird with the Reapers.
Yeah.
It got weird.
2 was trying to do too much. You had the Reapers, and then you had Scud, and then you had the Whistler storyline, where he was kind of a vampire, but he wasn't.
And then you had the Damaskinos.
And the Blood Pack.
And
Donnie Yen.
Like, it's just...
Too much, man. Stick with 1.
Yeah.
Stick with 1. Like, I'm starting to love this little motif, but if you were to make a Blade beer, what would be in the Blade beer?
Oh, it's got to be some sort of Imperial Red.
Yeah,
Imperial
nice
Red.
And red. Nice.
It has to be nice. It has to be a deep, deep Imperial Red. It has to be super strong. It has to make you, like, actually thirsty after you drink it.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. Keep the thirst going, dude.
Yeah.
Keep the thirst going, man.
Call it the anti-serum.
Call it that mess. People will buy it. My serum. Oh, man. Where can we find you?
You can find me at Beard Business Bureau. Oh, my God. Why do I keep messing this up? You can find me on Facebook, Beard Business Bureau. find me on Twitter at BeerBBureau, and you can find me on Instagram, Beer Business Bureau.
Perfect.
I'll never perfect that. I'm sorry.
That's
Bear with
okay.
me.
Try to spell Nerdiverse every single day. It doesn't work. I mess it up some kind of different way.
At least you don't have 3 words.
I
You have
caught it.
3 syllables, but you don't have 3 words.
The Nova Negative Nerdiverse. I couldn't even say it right the first time.
See, there you go.
See, you're all right, man. You can always find this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Google+. Thank you once again, Darren, for being with me on this episode. And I hope it was blood-curdling for a couple of you. And hopefully, if you've never seen it, go watch it. It's still worth going to see or watching. I'm sure you can find it very cheap certain places. And read the comic. Support your local comic book store. Buy some Blade comics. You will not regret it. I'm, of course, your host, Mike G. And I will always ask you to look towards the skies.
Wait, hold on. Actually, let me expand on that. So read one of the original comics, just 1 or 2 of them, and then read the post-90s.
Good. Skip the 90s, first of all.
Yeah.
Read all the 70s Blade stuff. All of the like Werewolf by Night, the Marvel horror in the 70s is gold, dude. Like The Living, Mummy, Blade, the Vampire Hunter, Morbius, the Living Vampire, Werewolf by Night. It's all great stuff, man. Like even the Dracula books with Hannibal King and all that are just really good writing. A lot of Gene Colan, which is one of the great Marvel writers of all time, did a lot of that stuff. So dig into that. Yeah. That's your homework. Dig into some Marvel horror. You will not regret it. I can't wait till Marvel comes full circle and starts having horror on the big screen. That's the next step, man. I think Blade's going to be their intro into horror. Because Marvel horror is big for Marvel. It's just a lot of people don't remember it because it was so back in the day. Mm-hmm. But in that case, look towards the tombs. Look towards the crypts. Bloods.
Oh, my God. It's a wrap.
I had to do it. I had to do it.